I'll introduce myself. My name is Martin Mackey. I'm the director of the Rethinking Remote Education Ventures. It's a $17 million contract through the federal government to support kind of some remote education and really re-examining the way that we look at how we're serving schools. I'll get into more of the details and the history about this, but I'd like to introduce Elaine Bartley. She's a part of this project as well, and she is kind of the brains behind the operation. Anybody that's been dealing with us for a while knows that if you have a question, Elaine is going to have the right answer very quickly, and we are very grateful to have her. Let me get started, and we'll talk a little bit about the origin of why we started this project, and then move into some questions or some comments from some folks that have taken this class in the past. So again, my name is Martin, and I'm really excited to be here. I was a public school principal for a long time, but I found out about this position, and so I stopped being a principal and took this position in December of last year. So I'm very well aware of what schools are like these days. I'm also aware of the amazing collaboration and the amazing creativity that people have had over the last year plus. The motivation behind the REV project was to sort of capture that innovation and capture that momentum and continue that into the future, regardless of COVID. It's not a reaction to, it's not a response to COVID as much as a response to the innovative mindset that every one of us has had to put into our jobs in the last year plus. So the department here decided that we wanted to pursue this federal grant. It was a competitive grant, and it was ourselves and 11 other states were awarded similar grants to this. They're all about working in remote education in some aspect or another. The one that we received is direct, what's it called, Elaine?
Field initiated innovations. Field
initiated innovations. So this one is all about working directly with students in our schools. So REV, I'll give you an overview of kind of how it works and how people can interact with REV. So the project is designed to create pilot programs that serve students in a remote setting. And we define remote as online, which we are all very familiar with, outdoor ed, extended learning opportunities, and multiple pathways. So it's not just online learning that we're looking at. We're looking at a whole cohort of different ways to serve kids, primarily in a remote setting, and remote is described as the majority of the time outside of the brick and mortar of a school building. The grant is opened up to public and private educators, pre-K through 12, in any school in the state of Maine. So the goal of it was to really open up as many opportunities as possible to harness the motivation and inspiration that we've all had in the last year. So the way that people get involved in it is they can apply to take a class through one of the many different classes that we have. We're currently on the books to start offering in the near future classes from Eastern Maine Community College, UMaine Foster Center for Innovation, Thomas College, University of Maine Farmington, and
an asynchronous opportunity.
And an asynchronous opportunity that is still being developed and probably will be available in the late May area. So the individuals are tasked with having the opportunity to learn an innovative approach to problem solving and developing a pilot with a community of their peers. These classes explore things like design thinking, and they help really people get prepared to do a systemic change in their school. We're looking for people to do things that are far beyond just letting kids wear hats in the back of the classroom. We want systemic, major change, things that are going to influence policy, things that are going to influence and change mindsets school-wide or even district-wide. And when you take the class, after you complete the class, you will have a pilot in hand that's been developed with you and your peers using the models from the instructors of these classes. That once you have those will be uploaded into a place called Engine, which will be a collaborative hub. And Engine is still in the developmental phases, but we're building this with an amazing software designer and some other folks from Portland. And this will be a collaborative hub where people will be able to share their pilots and then share the iterations on these pilots, as well as a number of other features. And the beauty of Engine is it's going to be around long after the REV grant is expired, which is July 31st, 2023. So Engine will be around forever. The pilots that you guys create will be up on there, and they'll be there to serve generations of Mainers to come. There's going to be a lot of other features around innovation on that website as well. But the goal of it is to be a collaborative hub so that people have a place to go to kind of think about different divergent ways of educating kids. The way that we're dividing the grant awards is we have 6 grant cycles, and they're defined into each superintendent region. So like many of you probably are not aware of which region you're in, but there's 9 superintendent regions. They're not necessarily counties. They're certainly not districts, but they're regions of the state. So there's a link to specific what school is in which region on our website. But these 9 superintendent regions are each guaranteed $850,000 in funding for these pilots. So the way that we're distributing the funding is on a willing and qualified basis. So if you're applying for the funding, you're willing to take the money. So that's an easy one to check off. The qualifications, we're looking at the CRF. It's generally some CRF metrics. It's not all the CRF metrics, but it's a number of different ones from the CRF kind of guidelines. So things like, sorry, I'm moving my phone, enrollment data, special ed totals, 504 services, Title I services, free and reduced lunch, homeless level, English as a second language, and economic hardship are the ones that we've reached out to so far. And we're working with our data team here to develop a comprehensive list. For you guys in the field right now, your best judge would just be to look at the CRF allocations, which is, it's just public knowledge. That's on the Department of Ed website. So folks can apply for that, and they can apply for, there's 6 different rounds. The first round is starting June 1st. Candidates will be able to submit their pilot templates, which they've developed in one of the IHE partner classes. And they've kind of developed them in there, and then they've honed them and made them perfect in collaboration with the Rev team. And so they'll be able to upload those onto June 1st, and they'll be eligible for, we're going to review the grants for the entire month of June, or in the entire month of July. Then we will determine grant awards early August so that you can get things rolling for the start of the school year. The second grant funding round opens up September 1st, and that is open through all of September. And then it closes October 1st. We review applications all of October, and we will make grant award notifications in November for December distribution. So those are the 2 first ones, and then they continue on a cycle similar to that until July of 2023. So ways to get involved in Rev is you take one of these IHE classes, you get a team of people, yourself and one other administrator, and you take the class, you learn a lot. You come in with maybe an idea of what you want to do, and then the IHE instructors drop so much wisdom on you that your idea morphs and turns into something even better and more amazing. There's a number of them in the room right now, so I appreciate you guys being a part of this. But we've seen that time and time again. People come in with an idea, and they leave with a much more refined and productive idea. I've shared with everybody some different metrics or resources around getting involved with Rev. I can certainly share those again, but I would love it if folks could share those with everybody in their field and their schools, because ultimately these classes are open up to everybody in the state for free. And you get to take one of these classes to learn this kind of innovative approach. And the reason that we're asking folks to take this class is because the task that you will be given upon completion of this is pretty significant. We're looking for a systemic major change within the schools. And I think to do that, the commitment of attending a class and being a part of sort of developing a common language and learning a specific approach is key to that. And so once you have that done, then you would be eligible to apply for one of the grants and then implement it. And then once you implement it, we'll be following up with you, and we'll be expecting you to be a part of, kind of tracking how things are going and sharing that on our statewide portal, which we're calling Engine, which is yet to be developed, but it's going to be wicked cool once we get it. Elaine, what did I miss?
Oh, awesome. Very comprehensive. There is a wait list link on our website. So anybody that wants to be involved, whether or not they want to be a team leader, somebody in your district that wants to kind of be one of the co-captains of the team, or people who just want to take some smaller courses and be a member of the team that's a kind of a supporting staff or a support teammate. Any of those opportunities for professional development, if they get onto the wait list, then we'll just keep sharing information with them as soon as it comes available. And so that's the important thing to share with all of your colleagues back in your school system. So get involved.
Yeah, and we're pretty aware that right now things in schools are definitely, people are stretched pretty thin. So please remember that we're going to be offering these classes on a lot of these classes in the near future. So if now is not the time, but you're thinking maybe the summer or late summer or even next year, you'd be really interested in this. Like we're going to be around, and we really want to be able to support all sorts of innovation within the state. And I think that the tools that we have developed in conjunction with the folks from the IHE are pretty impacting, and they're going to serve the students of Maine a lot longer than the REV grant will be around. So based on our inaugural class, we were going to call them the Alpha class, but it seemed kind of aggressive. So we call them the inaugural class. They have produced some pretty cool stuff, and they're still in the process of tweaking and refining their pilots. But I think we've got some really cool, unique approaches that will be coming out into our schools soon. So I'd more than willing to share specific information or meet with any group of people who want to talk and learn more about it in the future. But for right now, if anybody has any questions, please let me know, and I'd love to answer them with an audience. Dr. Ross, your question?
So thank you, Martin. I didn't have a question. I was waiting for others to step up first, but it seems that you called on me as you would if I was a student in your class.
Well, I saw you weren't paying attention.
Here is the question that I was thinking of, but I was waiting to see what the rest of the audience was going to throw out there. So I do appreciate the spotlight at the moment. From a district standpoint and from a Southern Maine standpoint, I do know that superintendents in York County we're discussing a little bit about what a remote platform might look like in the fall. Regional, I may have just a few students next year that don't want to come back for whatever reason, and to hire and build a program for our small district doesn't make any sense. So we're looking at something that might be regionalized. I know Paul Penner and SAD 6 has really got a lot of energy for this.
Yeah.
So does this format allow for districts to work together to create something, and almost think of it as like a tuition in model? If I had 4 or 5 kids that need this, maybe I pay for 4 or 5 kids to go online with their school laptops, and other districts do the same thing, so that we have some sort of an academy for York County kids that aren't attending. Are you the think tank that can help us design that? That's from a superintendent's point of view.
Yeah, and to answer that in short, yes, we are. What we would do is our grant is designed to support an individual fiscal agent. So Acton would be the fiscal agent for this, and then you would work with a number of other schools to work out the financials between that. But yeah, this is designed to be able to work collaboratively with a number of other organizations. We can't do sub grants and things like that, but what you do within your grant is obviously has to be legal, but it is it's pretty liberal.
York County already has some service centers that have been developed with executive directors, so that would be the natural fiscal agent.
Yeah, it could be an extension of something, a similar model to that. Yes.
Yep.
Great question. Thanks. Are there any other questions? I one thing is, we are in the process of starting up another round of classes, and we have a number of them that are going to be coming out in the very near future. You guys were the people who took the class just now. I want to just thank you for the 100th time for being sort of our test pilot group, because we learned a tremendous amount with you guys, and you guys learned a lot too. But I think that moving forward, I really encourage you to share this model and to share this opportunity with folks. We have enough money to fund a lot of teachers. The goal is to have hundreds of teachers go through this process, because we're not just trying to go through the process to design a pilot. We're not designing a pilot so that we can get funding. We're trying to reframe the way we look at schools and the way that we look at education for some of our most marginalized kids. We need to be innovative to meet the needs of all kids in Maine. And this is a tool. This is an opportunity. This is a solid source of funding that can really meet so many different expectations that have come out of this opportunity for creativity. So we really want to harness that. And I please implore you to share this with as many people as you can, because I think that there's so much opportunity and there's so much change that could happen and that needs to happen and it is starting to happen, and we don't want to lose this momentum. So
yeah, one of the things that I wanted to comment on Mr. Ross's question was, as part of the grant, the goal of pilots is that you may find that somebody has a similar idea and a pilot may or may not be already underway with another group of folks. And so one of the goals of Engine is that if a group creates a pilot and gets it published in Engine because it's gone through the step, you as another district that maybe hasn't gone through some of the training yet or hasn't really put together your team, you may find that pilot starts to meet your needs, and you take that pilot after you've gone through the course, or you start to develop and morph that pilot into one that better suits your particular client or your particular region or your particular group of students. So the notion of having to get in right now, that some people are they're getting a little nervous because they're saying we're not in at the first round of funding. That's okay. As Martin pointed out, we have ongoing cycles of coursework and we have ongoing cycles of awards for the sake of getting people on board when they're ready. But at the same time, you're going to see some of those pilots already posted, and then you may go into the course, Mr. Ross, and develop a pilot, then come out with your team and go, we'd rather actually go for funding for this one that was already developed. We like our idea that we made, because our goal of offering this professional development is to really expand systemic understanding about design and innovation in education. And so you will go through the process of developing a pilot, but you're not locked into only applying for that one that you developed, because you may see ideas that somebody else started and then you may really take off with that. So the whole notion of professional development and then a collaborative community, and then all of these educators participating in and really growing the knowledge, is the biggest and the coolest part of REV, is that it's an iterative process, and we're trying to get as many people with as many ideas involved.
And Alex, I'll answer your question in 1 second. I just want to add one thing, is the fact that there are superintendent regions that are not going to be utilizing this initial first round. That money carries over. So the fact that one superintendent region doesn't end up having any pilots this round that they are submitting funding for, that money will carry over into the next round. So the money is not going to disappear. And if it carries over more than one round in a specific superintendent region, then it goes to a general pool to fund other places as well. So we've got a pretty in-depth system to make sure that we are distributing this money as equitably as possible, while making sure that we get as much money out there as possible. The other thing to add to that, to what Elaine was saying, is Mr. Ross and Mr. Tierney, they've both been through the class. They could collaborate outside of the class and create a whole different pilot using our pilot template and submit that to Engine and be eligible for funding as well. So the pilots you create, the first one needs to come through the IHE class, but after that, you and your other folks, your other veterans from this program, can collaborate and create all sorts of other things as well. It really is, we are trying to create the lowest barriers as possible. That being said, we do have high expectations for folks, because we do want them, we want to have a pretty in-depth, uniform approach to working with these sizable amounts of money. Thank you for your patience, Alexander.
Hi, thanks a lot for having me in. So I'm not a teacher in Maine now, I'm in Boston, but I plan to be in Maine in the fall. And Martin was kind enough to let me in on the call. But since I'm in Boston, remote learning is really just confined to COVID times. I mean, we're an urban district, and so we don't deal with rural education quite as much as we might in Maine. So I'm curious just what an example of a non-COVID related remote learning model or project or pilot might look like, just because I don't have the same sort of context or background.
Okay, and thankfully, Alexander, we've got a couple of veterans in here that hopefully someone's going to pipe up and share with their amazing exemplar that they made already, so that, because the people have asked themselves that question and then spent 8 weeks figuring it out. So don't fight over it, but somebody come up with something. Or I'm going to pick on you.
I can. I don't. Oh, go ahead. We're ready to use ours yet, but so the idea I've been working on is working with some of our students who are at risk of not graduating, and giving them options, which who often their biggest struggle is getting to school. They just don't show up, and then they're not there, so they can't do their work, and so then they don't pass their classes. So creating a model where they work with 1 or 2 teachers instead of 8 different teachers, and they can do a large amount of the work remotely if that's a barrier for them. And so doing an integrated courses that have multiple content areas and the option based on individual students to do a large amount of the work remotely. So fewer assignments, more like bigger source of projects, that sort of thing, with a specific demographic and a very particular reason as to why they're online. So they wouldn't necessarily be online all the time, but that would make it so these students who only show up 1 day a week, well, if you're only here 1 day a week, we can do a lot with 1 day a week, and you have 4 days a week where you can be remote, and that's fine too. So that's what we're doing. Is looking at integrating content areas and providing fewer executive functioning needs, I guess, outside of being able to get online.
Thank you so much for sharing, Lynette. That's a great example. So that's like that's a online remote exemplar. Does somebody want to share something that they have, maybe more of an outdoor ed or something along those lines?
I could share.
Oh, great.
Okay, I'll go. So I'm Marie Robinson, superintendent and elementary principal at RSU 89. And what we are taking a close look at is some of the social, emotional, physical needs that haven't been met, particularly at the elementary level through all of this. So even pre-COVID, we've noticed that at our school. So we've really started to develop an initiative where we are working on integrating our curriculum and getting kids outside for learning. So we are taking a stance where we are recognizing that instead of just focusing on the cognitive needs, which we've been doing very intensely for the past 20 years in education, we are taking a step back and saying, you know, we really want to use this funding to develop a pilot project that will support teachers to support the whole child, so that kids are getting their not only cognitive needs, but also social, emotional, and physical needs met at the elementary level particularly. And then we have a plan to carry it forward in our middle school and high school through an outdoor ed pathway, which we have those courses in place, but we're looking to bolster that and provide additional training to support that and to ensure that that pathway is transparent for the children that are attending school.
Mr. Tierney, you want to share yours?
Yeah, it actually it piggybacks quite well with Marie's project in the sense that she's concentrating on younger students. My colleague Jake Bogar, who's also on the call, we use the class. We also recognize we you're in urban district, but rurally here, we're in Western Maine, we have access to mountain, streams, rivers, all that good stuff. That's right outside our door. So we were using the class sort of to get our foot through the door for an outdoor rec / leadership program within our high school. Also offering outdoor pathways, hoping also to include with some help college credit along with that program. And so yeah, it's been a worthwhile experience. I think the networking that goes on within the class itself has been super positive. Met a lot of people who've made that, just made a lot of connections with people who, you know, have similar goals, or better yet, have kind of already been down that path before in different ways. So that's been kind of nice. So Jake, you can add anything you might want.
I just chime in. I'm a pre-engineering CTE instructor at the Connected school in Farmington, Maine, at the Mount Blue campus. So Travis teaches English and I teach pre-engineering. So I just taken the class. I learned a lot about a lot of different tools and skills that I can use with my own kids, and I was able to use with them just this year as well. And that's been a big piece I got out of that, was the innovation engineering and the PDSA cycles that we could use that help support a lot of their projects they're working on currently. So there were some immediate benefits, but also just stepping back and looking at how you can make change, and actually having a project you're working with really was rewarding. So
thank you so much for sharing, you guys. I appreciate it. So yeah, I mean, ultimately what we're looking to do is invoke systemic major change in a way that's going to be sustainable, and also a way that's going to really work with some of those marginalized and those populations that have not been recognized in the last long time. So, you know, that's one of the reasons that we have a very horizontal just funding distribution model. Like the folks up in the places that haven't gotten as many resources are just as applicable for these as other places. So that being said, we want to make sure that as many people get these as possible, because it's a sizable amount of money that's going to impact schools in a really creative and unique way. So that's what we're shooting for. One of the keys to it is it needs to be something that's innovative. So we're not looking to fund existing programs or ideas that you have been working on for a long time. Things that we're looking for are things that are kind of a new approach that that represents a new way of thinking that's going to be a systemic change for your school. So in one school, you know, an ELO program is going to be majorly different. There's something they're not used to doing, and it's going to represent significant change. While in another school, they've had an ELO director for years. So it really, the systemic and the innovation is based on, you know, where an individual schools and individual needs for individual schools. So if there are any other questions, please ask them. If anybody has any other comments, but this is going to be recorded. So if it goes to the Oscars, you'll all get a cut of that. But I appreciate people taking time on a busy afternoon, and looking really forward to having some of you guys in the class. And I appreciate the folks that came to the first class. It was a pretty powerful experience for everyone.
Yeah, Alex, I would also add, and Jason, thanks for this. If Renee was here, I would say thanks as well. And anyone else can agree or disagree with me. But I think for me, and Jake, you can chime in as well, some of the things we took away from class had to do with death threats. So anyone who's ever tried to, you know, bring something to public education and repeatedly had sort of the door slammed in your face because, you know, the money's not there, scheduling's not there, any of those types of things, like, it puts you in a really good position to meet those death threats as they arise. So you get a lot of feedback. I guess you meet those death threats before you ever, you know, meet them in your own district, which is really helpful if you want to sell, you know, your program to admin, to a board, to a community. Any of those things is really helpful. So I just thought I'd add that.
Thanks.
Travis, it's nice to see you still the creative thinker you've always been.
It's been a very long time, Mr. Ross. It's good to see you.
Travis, good to see you too.
I just want to piggyback off of what Travis just said, because I think it's really important that coursework and developing that knowledge base across the board with the team in your district, so that you can really have that, you know, foundational thinking of how do we not just pluck an idea out of the air and try to make it happen, but actually follow a process that's going to support the sustainability of it. And we think through it in a very strategic manner. So I would say that's a huge benefit. And if you can gather, 2, 3, I had 4 people, and I have a 5th on a waiting list. So I think that's really where this systemic change is going to come from. The more people that understand the process, the better off we're going to be as a state, moving forward with education. So hugely beneficial.
Hey, Marie, can I ask you a question? Your demographic and your school, your position is very similar to me, with small schools, small school in a big county, but in southern Maine, locations different. So is the staff here has been doing wonderfully and really put their shoulder to the wheel. I'd even say they're brave. They've done a great job this year. But I think they're so tapped that, like, the last thing I want to do is send another email on anything as soon as June comes. So where are you garnering this energy to get 5 people that say, I'm in it with you? Because, wow.
I will tell you that I think the stars just aligned, but I've just really talked to, we've been kind of on this pathway, but there is a small core that is just so dedicated and passionate about this. And it's our literacy specialist. I have an interventionist, and myself, and then we have we have somebody who is an ed tech at the high school who's filling in for outdoor ed. So for this year, because the teacher's on leave. So it's kind of just been an interesting variety. And I didn't even say anything. People found it. And they said, oh, we should sign up for this. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I would say I was feeling a lot of pressure, but it was good to have a team to work on it. But yeah, you do. It's about that, getting those people on board and understanding, why is this so important? And I mean, that I'm working on my PhD right now. So I've been plugging away at, it's nature and learning, and why do we need to get kids outside? So I think just sharing that why is so important for people to understand. Why is there a sense of urgency? And, I'm putting things on hold to say, look, this is really important, because this opportunity to change education does not come around much. And it's really the only thing that keeps me in this business. So that's where my energy comes from. Thanks for asking, though.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Maria. It was like lightning in a bottle. I appreciate that. That's awesome. And Mr. Ross and Maria, I think I'm going to try to connect you guys, because you're both doing a lot of similar things, and you're both in your PhD program. So I'll connect you guys through email.
Great, thanks.
And so, John, the final thing is we all know that teachers in the last year have been given permission to do things differently, whereas prior to a year ago, they didn't have this permission. And so to capitalize on that enthusiasm, could capitalize on that kind of new mindset, that's where we're getting people like Marie and the other folks in this class to come in, and they finally have, it's an opportunity to sort of celebrate where they're going and where they've been. So if you can spin it in that way and saying, let's keep this momentum going. And then we'll get Marie to come and talk to your staff. So anybody else have anything? This will be recorded, so you can watch it with your family tonight. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone's commitment, and everybody's doing what they're doing. It's great. We look forward to having the first iteration of the pilots out soon. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.